All right. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Andrea Pacini. I'm a presentation coach. I'm the founder of a company, Ideas on Stage in the UK. We help business professionals create and deliver memorable presentations that get engagement or the sale, depending on the objective. And I'm super excited today because I have a great guest. I'm here with Jimmy Cannon. Jimmy is a voice coach, and that's what we are going to talk about today. We're going to talk about our voice. Jimmy, thank you very much for being with me today. Thanks for your
A,
time.
a pleasure, Andrea. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. And so before we start, Jimmy, of course, you are a voice coach, but I also know that you've had a career as a singer. Hmm? That's
Well, you say had, but you say had. No. I'm just being slightly facetious at this time of the morning. Yeah. No, yes, I have, and I also was a saxophone player, and I'm still singing a lot actually, and it's not so much as I used to. I used to do, I used to do be performing and gigging, most nights of the week really. And since I've moved out of the city of London and into the country, and I've had some children, my children, and I'm not wanting to come home very late. I used to get home two or three in the morning, and that's not so helpful for mornings.
I can imagine. Where are you based at the moment? So not
So
anymore.
I live in Bedfordshire, in
Okay.
a little village called Tingryth.
Okay.
It's right in the middle of nowhere in the country. It's near Woburn, which has a safari park
Ah,
and a stately home, that type of thing. So
I
it's just
love.
we're just about we're junction 12 of the M1, about an hour away from London.
I love these little villages in the UK. I've been living here for more than 7 years now. I live in London, but
Yeah.
whenever I can, I always go and visit these little villages.
Well, we live in a very quaint village
Uh, uh.
with just a church.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
which is 13th century.
Wow.
Yeah, which is amazing, isn't it?
Imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah. And talking about singing, I asked the question because as a kid, I had this dream. I wanted to become a singer, but not because I liked singing. Actually,
yeah.
I couldn't really sing. But
We'll talk about that.
yeah, we'll talk about that. But the idea of performing and being on stage, I wanted to become like Freddie Mercury. That was my dream, but it
Yeah,
didn't happen, of course. And okay, so Jimmy, I would say let's start. I have so many questions for you. Let's see
sure.
let's see what we can cover today, maybe in half an hour or a bit more. And
Perfect.
first of all, based on from your understanding, why are we having this conversation? I'm a presentation coach. You are a voice coach. What's the link?
Well, I think I wouldn't say a trend, but I think there's a very important aspect of business with communication, um, not only on the phone but face to face. So I think there's a resurge, if you like, of face to face communication. I think a lot of people are not having to, wanting to, or needing to communicate their message with other colleagues, do presentations to other departments. I think there's a big emphasis on communication and well-being, and I think that's not the reason I started, doing this. The reason I started, well, we'll talk about that maybe in a minute, but um, I think that's a common need in these days in business is to have that is to have the confidence and the knowledge to be able to communicate your message with authority
Mm,
and the right energy and the right ethos, because it's very important these days for businesses to be able to communicate their ethos, I suppose,
mm.
their what's the word I'm not looking the phrase I'm looking for, their message. So
Absolutely.
that's there's a trend and a wave of that really, and I suppose That's the reason that I do, or that's the reason there's an opening for what I do, I suppose, in a way.
Absolutely. And why should we care about our voice, especially those who speak in public, those who are called on to make presentations, maybe in a boardroom or even a sales call, as you mentioned, calls, but also on stage at a conference or an event? Why should we really care about our voice?
Well, I think the care is an interesting word. I think care immediately flags up a few issues for me with which I know that from my point of view, having done loads of performances, loads of gigs, the reason I started having singing lessons years and years ago now was that my voice was getting tired. So over long periods of time, my voice would become dry and just not malleable really. And one thing that is really important for speakers is to be able to speak, and not only speak, but be able to speak, for long periods of time, for conferences, etc. Sometimes people are doing conferences for, that might be the whole week or the whole day, the whole day of. And I know as a singer and a voice coach and a teacher, I also teach vocals as well. And if I'm teaching all day, which I'm doing today actually, when I leave you, but if I'm teaching all day, it's a lot of stress on the voice. So, teachers, speakers, business people that need to do presentations or in meetings, they all need to look after their voice and to be able to sustain their voice for longer. And that's just one reason, I think, why we need to, predominantly care for our voice. But obviously we can manipulate our voice for other purposes as well.
Oh, and on that point, actually, that's so important because I see for me as well. What happens is sometimes, as you just said, I run maybe a training course over one day, sometimes 2 days, 3 days, or sometimes I do maybe an event at lunchtime and then I have another event in the evening.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes you need to be careful because you arrive at the end of the day and you see that something is different. So what can we do about it? What would you suggest? I appreciate that maybe it's not easy to just give an answer in a few seconds, but what's your take on this?
Well, I have a big take on this, obviously. What we need to do is we need to take away the pressure and the energy from here, from the throat. So most people speak from the throat, and they're also breathing in a very shallow manner as well. So if you take a much deeper, much longer breath, and you can control that breath and control the direction of the breath and how the breath is then amplified and resonated through the body, we can then control the energy that we're producing as an acoustic energy. As a body, as a human being, we're an acoustic energy. So we amplify and resonate the sound that's created by two very, very small flaps of skin and muscle, which are called our vocal folds. And so if you're speaking a lot from here and you're putting a lot of air over the throat here all the time, thank you everyone. I know I probably sound a little bit like Frank Spencer at the moment. You won't know. I do. So what we're trying to do is alleviate that pressure here really, and start using a lot of the other areas of resonance. So the chest, the head, the mask, the nasal cavity, the oral cavity, all these areas. There's about 3 or 4 different areas of resonance just within the head that we can manipulate and use to our advantage to sustain vocals for a longer period of time, as we mentioned, but also to send a message, to communicate an emotion, etc. I'll stop waffling.
Wow, no, that's so interesting, and I'll ask you to give us maybe some practical tips because they are useful to me as well. But before that, Jimmy, is it true that most of us breathe incorrectly? Is that
absolutely
true?
Yes, absolutely. When we were babies, we naturally our natural default mechanism to breathe is correct, is obviously correct. And if you watch a baby sleeping, then you'll see that he or she, the baby's stomach, if you like, will be, when it's breathing in, will be rising up, and when it's breathing out, will be coming down again. So we have this, but we for some reason, I think there is more of a physiological reason for this, and I think it's a lot to do with society and culture as well. It's a mix of things, the way how we breathe, and actually, you know, the older we get, and the older we get, and the more we develop as human beings within that timeline individually, the more anxious we get, the more affected to culture and society, I think. And I believe that's a strong connection to the way we breathe incorrectly most of the time. So actually, the correct way to breathe is very simply that we release the diaphragm. It drops and it allows the lungs to expand when we inhale. And when we exhale, when we breathe out, we're pushing the diaphragm back up with the abdominis muscles and pushing the air out. So we're using the diaphragm, which is a muscle which is connected to the rib cage, but it doesn't actually do the work of pushing
As
up.
you speak, I'm trying, yeah?
Yeah, that's good. So
let's try.
Let's do it. So basically, as you're sitting down, a really good exercise to do actually is to, as you're breathing in, put your hands on your, I'm going to stand up, so put your hands on your stomach here, okay? Yeah. And you breathe in, and it's just as an exercise, just try it through your nose. So you breathe in very slowly, 1, 2, 3, and you're dropping your belly, letting it out. That's it, fantastic. You breathe in and then hold it for a few seconds, and then you breathe out through your mouth, and let's make this sound. And you make it quite, that's it, quite strong. So you're connecting directly to the muscles, to your abdominis muscles down here. So this is a very good exercise just to be aware of the muscles that you need to use, and also to relax as well. This is a very, very calming way to start a meeting or start the day. So we'll just do it one more time. We're going to breathe in through the nose. 1, 2, 3. As you're breathing in, you're just dropping the belly and letting your rib cage and the belly just drop, and the air to come in and fill the lungs. You want to fill as much air in the lungs as possible, and then hold the breath, and then with a shh, you're going to let the breath out of 8 beats go. Shh, 2, 3, 4, keep going, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. And then you repeat that. There's more to it than that, Andre. But
I don't know what people are thinking about what we're doing. Because, you know, I'm familiar with these exercises because maybe it has nothing to do with it, or there are some connections. One of the things I do, because also you mentioned if you want to relax yourself, I do meditation, for example. In the morning, right. That's the first thing I do. Yeah. And when you do meditation, they teach you to breathe in that way.
Yes.
The difficulty is that I find, and I guess a lot of people might find as well, is that then in real life, you go back to real life, and you find it difficult to maybe remind yourself of the right way of breathing. And
yeah, absolutely. I think, look, you know, there's reasons for there's reasons and purposes for breathing deeply, and you know, and breathing deeply is a fantastic mechanism to increase and to trigger endorphins, for instance, as you know. Also, you'll be able to tell me more about meditation, but the deep breathing for meditation is going to allow you to get into that state, that mindset, that state that you want to get into. And that's practice, and it's a different, you know, for instance, if I'm practicing saxophone or singing, a lot of the time we're singing a very controlled sound. You know, I used to spend hours and hours practicing what we call overtones on saxophone. So these are notes that have other harmonics in, and you're finding the pitch. You're finding a combination of the pitches to make one large overall warm tone. That's what you're trying to produce. You wouldn't go and do a gig, well, some people would, playing overtones on a gig. It's a practice. So I would separate everything with practice and reality, I suppose, in a way, and action. So after a while, as a singer, for instance, as an actor, you don't want to be, you're not thinking about the words, you're not thinking about the script, for instance. So as a singer, you're not thinking about particularly how you're breathing. I think subconsciously I am, but I think you want to be thinking about the text, the emotion. As a speaker, you want to be thinking about the message and the emotion, and how you're coming across to the community, and your passion and your energy. You don't want to be thinking about the breathing, but practicing. After a while, it will become just become completely natural. Yes.
Understood. Okay, nice. And Jimmy, I'm really interested to understand, based on your experience, can anyone really improve their voice?
Yes. Well, actually, it's a very interesting question for me, and I have this a lot. I meet loads of people that. On discovery calls and meetings, conferences, etc., and they all come up to me because they know that I'm from a singing background, from a performance background, and they say, Jimmy, this is really interesting. Actually, I've, like yourself, it's a perfect example. You wanted to be, when you were younger, you wanted to be a singer. Now something got in the way. I would imagine it's probably a nod to reality, that trying to make
football.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, there we are. There we go. There's the reason. So it's a barrier got in the way. Look, for a lot of people, it's the harsh reality of actually having to make a living and make money, which is very true. Or it's football, or it's school, or it's other pressures and other things that get in the way. A lot of it is psychological. A lot of people are told that they can't sing from very early age. By a teacher, or by a friend, or etc. There's a lot of reasons why people don't start singing or don't continue to sing. I mean, the question is, can people sing? I would say yes. Now, I was reading an article the other week on whether tone deaf is a syndrome, whether being tone deaf. So actually, can you hear and can you feel pitch? And that one of the reasons why people can't sing, because obviously if you can't hear the pitch that you're, if you can't, I'm just going to turn around here. If you can't hear a pitch on the piano, if you can't hear that, you're not going to be able to reproduce that as an energy, as a sound. So you've got to be able to hear it first. If you can't hear it, you're not going to be able to produce it. So that's one test. And I think they found that, I think there was something like 0.3% of people who expressed an issue with tone deafness were actually tone deaf. And there's I've forgotten it now, but there's a syndrome for that, to be specifically tone deaf. So I would say that there's a chance that you might be tone deaf, but it's a very slim chance.
Okay, so we can say that if people practice, and also not just from a singing perspective, but also from a public speaking perspective, there are ways for people to improve their voice and
well, so I use mainly vocal techniques with my speaking communication training, and they are based on a combination of classical bel canto, more contemporary techniques, more contemporary breathing techniques, but very, very simple ways of just getting straight into and exploring sound and resonance and different tones, etc. for the voice. And not only that, how to use the voice in a positive a positive way to connect to your colleagues or clients. And sorry, what was the
question? Can you give us an example, maybe, because you say you use a lot of techniques to help people speak better. Maybe
okay, well,
there was one.
One. Okay, here we go. I just need to just bear with me.
Okay.
It's okay. Don't panic. Don't worry.
I like this session because it's quite practical. And
yeah. That's it. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. This is. You're going to love this, Andrea. I don't know if you heard this before, but this is the straw technique. Okay, and it wasn't invented by me. It was invented by a guy called Ingo Tietz. Okay, and a while back in the 60s, I think. And basically, what this is fantastic for three things. This is fantastic for resonance, to find resonance in what we call the mask area here, to also to explore your vocal registers. Now we have arguably 2 or 3 different vocal registers: the chest register, the head register, and also the mix or the blend in the voice. Now this is a fantastic little tool to practice gliding over all the vocal registers, because in speaking we want to use as many different tones, I'm going to exaggerate, as we can to get a point across. Now if we're all speaking on one tone, it's through here all the time, that's as you can see, it's very monotonal. It can get a little bit edgy and a little bit too much after a while, and people are going to lose interest. But if we start using different volumes, different tones, more chest voice down here, a little bit more resonance, and you can go up there if you want to, but probably wouldn't, So with this is a fantastic. You just take a straw. It's a bit controversial because
yeah, I know, but
yeah, you've got to find the right straw. This is actually an old-fashioned plastic one. It's quite thin. I wish you had one. Have you got one? Let me throw you this one. Here we go.
Maybe one day we will be able to.
I'm sure. And it's not that far off, is it? No, virtual throwing or virtual straw. Okay, so basically what you do is you what this does is I won't go into the scientific parameters and details, mainly because I really don't know. But I do know it extends the acoustic energy. And it takes off a lot of energy here. So this is what you're trying to effectively do, and keep this low, keep the larynx low, and the vocal folds thin. So what's great? What you do is you put it in your mouth, and you basically you make a sound. You hum. You make a sound through it, like this. I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can.
Now, if you start low. Now, if I do that a few times, I don't know if you can notice already, but my voice says, I'll just do it one more time. You have to really, really, really push down here. I don't know if you can notice on the microphone here, but my voice has I can feel it here, but much stronger when you do it yourself. But it should be more of a resonant sound, a more projected resonant sound, and it's really quite instant. So you literally take the straw, you make a sound, you start really low, and you hum all the way up to the top as high as you can, pushing with the abdominal muscles, with the energy down here, and keeping this nice and relaxed, and then all the way down again. And you do that 2 or 3 times, and your voice will become more resonant and have more projection.
Nice. And on this point, now here's my question, because you also mentioned that and I agree, one of the issues I see also people speaking in front of an audience is this quiet, monotonal tone, if you want, and way of speaking, which we want to avoid. So people want to be able to vary the pitch, if you want, but and I'm sure that if people work with a voice coach like you, of course, you've got all of these techniques and exercises, and which will help them massively. But I'm thinking now, a business professional, he or she is at an event, and they need to speak in front of an audience. And do you really suggest that that's what they should do before getting on stage in front of everybody else? Or if not, maybe yes, but if not, if they can't, what can they do to be able to maybe improve a little bit and not being that monotone maybe?
Well, again, they really need to have some sessions with a voice coach, and that to practice. So there's exercises to practice. It's not just vocal exercises. I think it's also about exploring how they might communicate their message in different ways. There's a lot to be said about emotion and tone, timbre, with words and how they pace. For instance, if I was to talk about talk about resonance and projection and tone and vocal register for a long time, but then I just stopped, paused, and mentioned that if we were just to, you know about this as a presentation coach. So there's a lot about pace, changing gear, emotion, using emotion through tone, and just really manipulating our voice to be able to connect in various ways. Just before you go on stage, it's going to be difficult to practice that. What I recommend is not doing, but beforehand. It needs to be practiced beforehand. What you can do, is, it's difficult because if you're in company, you don't want to be doing this. You're going to feel a bit stupid, understandably. But you can do a couple of things just to warm up the voice, for instance. And I can show you a couple of things. Very. So, there's just to warm up the voice, for instance. There's just before we had, because it's quite early in the morning, and I really haven't done I haven't warmed up anything.
People don't know. I'm going to publish this maybe one day at 12 o'clock, and people don't know that it's 4 a.m. now. No, it's not 4 a.m.
That's it. Well, I've just sent the kids off to school. But before, as I did that, I thought, right, actually, the irony is that I'm going to be talking to Andrea here, and my voice needs to be reasonably in trim, otherwise, ironically, that wouldn't work. But so, as I'm in the kitchen getting some water before we started, I did a couple of things. Now, my port of call, my default thing that I do all the time is a lip trill, and you buzz your lips, you put air through your lips, and you do this. Yeah. Now it takes a little bit while to get them to vibrate. Okay. So don't worry if you can't do it straight away. Well, you can. Yeah, that's it. What you can do is you put your fingers up here. That's it, and just purse your lips together. Got it.
That looks better. Yeah.
Is that better? That's brilliant. That's great. Now you're pleased with that, and I'm not surprised. So you do this, but then you put a sound to it. So you then it's from unvoiced to a voiced sound. Okay, so that goes, and you can go up your range, or do what's called a siren, which is a fantastic. So you start low. And all the way down.
And here we can see the singer in you. And
yeah, thank you. So that's a really, really good way. The other thing is to do what I call a falsetto fall alliteration. Is that you start with a because your voice, as you're asleep, it's becoming dry. The muscles are becoming tired. They're becoming thick. And you want to, they need to be flexible. So there's a whole lot of stuff that you can, even sort of face massaging, releasing the jaw, just shoulders, all of these things. There's a lot more to this, obviously, but all of these things, contribute to the flexibility of these little tiny things here called the vocal folds or vocal cords, and the muscles and the cartilage around them need to be relaxed and supporting that as when we speak.
Yeah, just speaking to you for a few minutes now, it's clear that there is, if somebody really wants to master it, there is a world to explore.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Perhaps last question, Jimmy.
This is ominous. Last question, ominous.
If everybody says, and I think perhaps it's true, I don't know, because I think I experienced it at the beginning as well. We tend to hate the sound of our own voice, isn't it? And I don't know whether you have this. You do. I know that you do a lot of videos online, and I do the same. I've got these conversations, and now it's fine. I have to say, because I'm used to it. But at the beginning, I did have the feeling, it's a bit weird, it's strange. What's going on there? Why is that? Do you know?
Absolutely. Well, we naturally have a different perception to what our voice sounds like to other people. So it's very common if the first time that you record your voice or hear your voice back, it's quite a shock And I know that was the same. I mean, the first time I heard my voice back was probably when I was about 4 years old, when my father would record. We started to do an annual birthday recording. So I remember with a Philips cassette player, and he would this annual ritual. I would, in the kitchen, he would press record and play, red button and the black button, and the cassette would go, zzz, and he would say, okay, he used to call me Jamie. So he'd say, Jamie, so what is it today? And I would say, it's my birthday, Daddy. That's a bit of a strange voice. But I remember, because I've still got those cassettes, and I had a very posh voice like this, you see, and I used to speak very much like this. And it's my birthday, Daddy, and I'm going to get, for my birthday, already consumerism is coming into play, Anyway, so that was the first memory of my voice, and it really stuck in my head how I sounded, and I think since then I was very aware of how my voice sounded. I'm aware that my voice is quite can be quite grating, actually. As a voice coach, some people say I've got one reason, after over years people compliment you on your singing and voice, etc., and you actually think, well, actually maybe I could do something with this. I'm not fishing for compliments here, Andre. It's look, we have a different perception of how our voice sounds because of the acoustics, not only within the room that we're speaking. So as soon as I say something, as soon as sound comes out of my mouth and my vocal tract here, and my body here, what I'm hearing is the reflection of the sound that's coming back from the first wall or first solid, material that it hits and reflects back. And what you hear is that reflection and absorption through your ears. So you're hearing what through your ears differently to what I'm hearing through mine. So what might be horrible for you might be absolutely great or fine for, again, completely acceptable for someone else. So I think firstly, don't worry about the sound of your voice, because actually it's not what people hear. And if you can get used to the sound of your voice, then anyone can. And actually, the best thing to do, it really is to go down an inoculation method, really, by just recording yourself as much as you can. And then which is great. Yeah, and you get used to it, and which is a great thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. And I think for you, Jimmy, it must be a bit, I don't know whether it's difficult or you've got maybe an extra pressure. I feel it the same because, for example, what I do is I run a lot of events, and in those events, I give maybe a presentation to, I wouldn't say teach others. I don't like to be a teacher, but we talk about how can we create and deliver an effective presentation. And I do it while giving a presentation. So I feel this extra pressure. People look at me, he's giving a presentation about how to give presentations. And I guess for you, it's similar because you are a voice coach and people speak to you. For example, that's what I do. I pay attention to your voice because
Of course. I think, it's like, as you know, it's like performing anxiety. Or it's similar to, paranoid thoughts that we might have on stage, or it's most of the time, I'm absolutely, I'm in fact, this week I'm going to do, a presentation for a company. It's a taster presentation about, offering a course. And, obviously I'm thinking, well, I know the content, I know what I do works, but can I deliver it? Am I going to be on form? Is my voice going to be on form? So I'm constantly making sure that it is. And I'm also very aware that you're delivering, well, I'm delivering something about my voice, and the people that are delivering to are obviously analyzing and listening to mine, judging perhaps my voice to their voice. And obviously, as you as a presenter. So, and as a singer, I'm thinking as I'm singing, there might be, a fabulous Italian opera singer in the audience who's you know, thinking, wow, who is this guy? You know, he's you know, he's not very good or whatever. You know, of course. I think, you know, I think you'll know that actually, you know, the reality is that people are either thinking about how they can use that information for their own business or their own, you know, requirements, or they're perhaps thinking about what they're going to have for dinner. You know.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, we worry too much about what
Exactly.
other people think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Jimmy, thank you very much. Before we close, is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you would like to add? Anything I missed?
I think there's more. There's. I mean, what I'm interested. The more I like anything. The more I do this, the more stronger I feel about, you know, because it's quite the voice coaching thing and the communication coaching. I don't know how you feel about, but as your business about the presentation coaching, but it's, you know, you do feel in a way that it's a bit niche and actually, you know, do really businesses, do they really need this as part of their training or part of their, you know, their message, or, you know, do they need to add this on? Do they need to invite this into their business and into their communication or into their department? And the more I do it, and the more research I do, and the more people I talk to, I find that the answer is yes, absolutely. So that's, you know, one thing that I would like to say, that it might not be me, but if you need to present a message, if you need to communicate with your staff, with your colleagues, with your clients, and, you know, you 99% of the time you're going to need to do that with your voice, and it's becoming more, you know, more common now to do that either on the phone or in face-to-face. So face-to-face communication is, I think, the best way to communicate your message, because it's not only the sound of the voice, it's the messages that we convey throughout through the body, and, you know, the emotion that we're connecting with that other person through emotion, really. And it's actually emotion and empathy and sincerity is key to communication.
No, I agree with you 100%, because in the end, you can have, and this applies to individuals and businesses as well, you can have the greatest idea in the world. If you can't communicate the idea, and you communicate it through voice, of course, then it doesn't matter. So, yes. Absolutely. Yes. Great. So thank you very much, Jamie. Before we close, maybe I'll just take 1 minute as an invitation to our listeners. What I'll do as my thank you to those who've stayed until the end, I'll link it up in the comments.
Congratulations. Yes.
Congratulations. Yes. And I'll send you a link with some free resources. What you can access a report, an ebook that we've created with the top 7 mistakes people make when creating business presentations, which is our focus. Get access to a webinar. They get access to the presentation scorecard, which is a quick online tool that helps people assess their presentation skills very quickly in less than 5 minutes. So you get access to that. Also, for those who are in London, not in the little village like you did. But if anybody is around London, then I also run, as I mentioned before, a number of events. These are like boardroom type of events with 10, 15 people, business professionals. And we talk about really what it takes in order to be able to create, design, and deliver an effective presentation. So I'll link it up in the comments, and if you are available, feel free to come and say hi. So Jimmy, thanks again. I've learned so much. It's been super interesting, super useful. I'm sure our guests have learned as well. And thank you very much for your time again. And
absolute pleasure, Andre. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we keep in touch, yeah?
Please do. Fantastic.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.